Hi, it's Russell James and you're watching The Raw Chef TV. In this episode, I'm excited about this one actually because this came from a question that someone asked me: what can I do with the pulp that is left over when I make a juice? It's a pretty standard, I think, pulp. It's got carrots, apples, cucumber, celery, ginger, a little bit of lemon, I think that was it. So pretty standard pulp. If you're juicing weird stuff that has really got a strong taste, then obviously you're going to have to adjust the idea here and adjust the recipe. But when someone asked me this, what can I do with my pulp? I was like, well, you could just, off the top of my head, add a bit of tahini, put a bit of curry sauce in there and make some kind of, like curry croquettes, like curry burgers almost. And I thought I'd show you it because it worked out. It worked out when I tested it. So the first thing you want to do when you've got your pulp here is I'm just going to put that onto a chopping board, and I'm just going to cut through it a few times because, especially if you're juicing up celery, you're going to get some really, fibrous pieces in there, long kind of stringy bits of celery still, if you've got a juicer that crushes. So I'm going to take my Mezzaluna knife. You could just do this with an ordinary knife. It just so happens that I've got one of these and it's handy. And just go through that a few times to make sure that in your final kind of croquettes that you don't get all those stringy bits. Okay, that's looking pretty good. All right, so we'll just transfer all of that to a bowl. And then we're going to add in all of these ingredients that are going to give us some beautiful flavors back into this. Because obviously we've extracted all of the liquid out of there, a lot of flavour contained in the liquid. But yeah, it does seem such a waste, doesn't it, if you're throwing away your juice pulp. So, first of all, curry powder. So just a curry powder of your choice. You don't have to use curry powder. You could use, cumin, smoked paprika, make up your own kind of spice blend out of those. I'm going to put a decent amount in there. Curry powder, I want a bit of sweetness in there as well because I'm going to add some tahini as the fat. So when you're making this, you've got to think, I've got the recipe on my blog, but if you're doing your own recipe, you've got to think, I need a fat, I need acid, and I need salt, and I need sweetness. And depending on what you juiced, you're going to have some of that in there already. So I've already got lemon juice in there because I juice lemons, but for the amount of volume that I used, I'm going to add a little bit of apple cider vinegar. I just need a little bit more, and maybe even a little bit of extra lemon juice too. The fat I'm using is tahini. That's going to make this moist again, as well as be the fat and combine all those flavors. And then the sweetness is going to come from the raisins. Now, obviously, I've already got apples in there and I've got carrots, but you lose a lot of the sweetness anyway when you juice them. So curry and raisins go really nicely together. I'm going to throw in some nutritional yeast as well. I'm also going to pop in a little bit of, this is combined garlic powder and onion powder, just a little bit of that. Salt, so we're going to need some salt. This is a personal thing, but personal preference on how much salt you like. Try it with the recipe that I've given you, and go from there. So if you're watching this on the podcast on iTunes, you can head over to my website, therawchef.com, and you can see this on the site with the recipe. So that was lemon juice. Lime juice would be really good in there as well. And a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So we're going to combine all those with some tahini. So I've got this really kind of runny tahini. Some tahinis are a little bit more pasty, and if you get more of a pasty one, you might want to add a little bit of water, but be really careful when you're adding water because we're going to dehydrate these, but only for about 4 hours just to get a bit of a crust on them. You can actually, if you haven't got a dehydrator, you can make these, you want to make them just moist enough that they hold together by themselves without needing dehydrating. So remember, you can always add water, but you can't take it away. So just get in there with your hands, mix that all around, and you'll start to see that come together, and the colours in there are naturally varied from all of the stuff that you've juiced. You can make like a Mexican version of this. You could add, like I say, cumin, coriander, cilantro, you know, fresh and dry coriander. Maybe a bit of sweet corn in there as well. Okay, so now we've got a mixture that holds together by itself. You ideally want to get something that's going to enable you to measure this out evenly. So I've got cup measures here. I'm going to use a half cup, and if you notice there, these cup measures are nicely rounded on the top, so it actually gives quite a nice shape to the patty without it looking too squared off around the edges rather. Okay, so I'll just pop that in and tap it out. And onto, if you've got a dehydrator, if you haven't, you can just refrigerate those and they're good to go. Just pop them in a salad and it's beautiful. But if you've got a dehydrator, pop them onto the dehydrator tray. And yeah, you're just 4 hours, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is just going to give them a little bit of a crust and keep them moist on the inside, because these are so aerated, because it's so fibrous, that if you dry them out completely, they'll just go really, really dry and not nice at all. So I'm going to continue to do the rest of these. We'll clear the chopping board down, and I'll show you a way you can present these and just make them just a really beautiful. It's almost like, they say there's nothing like a free lunch, but if you were going to throw the pulp away, this is as close to a free lunch as you get, I think. So I'll show you what they look like, made up into these beautiful little patties with some lettuce and tomato. Okay, so although this is a really good shaped cup, once you've turned them out of the cup, just give them a bit of a turn in your hand like that. It makes them into a nice veggie patty. So here we go, then we've got our beautifully dehydrated patties here. And so the way we're going to serve these, just as an idea, get yourself almost like an open-faced sandwich, get yourself some nice lettuce leaves. So that's a nice one. Okay, make almost like a little bun with that. Pop one of your patties on top there. And then we've got these beautiful ripe beefsteak tomatoes. So you could, if you plan in advance, you could make your patties that size so you can get a nice big chunk of beefsteak tomato on there. I'm just going to lay this on top, kind of cross it over like that. Then a nice bit of cashew mayo. If you want the recipe for this, you can look on my blog, just search for cashew mayo. The recipe is on there. Good old dollop of that on there. Beautiful. Some fresh herbs. Beautiful. There we go. So there you go. An amazing, fresh, beautiful free lunch.